in some market FUD going through. I could care less about any of that. I think it is like hands down the best time to be trying to bring some kind of crypto project to market, right? We've got regulatory clarity, we've got global expansion clarity. There are so many different DeFi building blocks and like software service providers for you to go pick and choose to bring your project to market.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Talking Intentionally. Today we have a guy who's actually been very instrumental for the growth of Axal, which is kind of based fun story of how we got a chance to meet him. But it's Halsey from MoonPay, who I believe was employee number one there, which is like kind of insane. Great to have him as like a mentor. But yeah, before we start, Ash, Halsey, how are you guys hanging?
How we doing, guys? Doing well. Calling in from sunny Miami today. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, very, very excited to talk about some of that early stage growth stuff, both for MoonPay and for Axel. But yeah, excited to dig in.
No, it's been a good day. We were all just catching up right before. It's Halloween as well, which is fun. But yeah, good day, good day.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
let's just jump into it. So MoonPay, number one employee, that's kind of insane. Like, what was the story behind finding, I guess, like the MoonPay guys and joining and jumping ship? And like most people kind of dream of that, like joining a company that becomes like probably like, one of the top unicorns in crypto. Like it's like kind of the dream, right? So
Yeah.
how'd you get lucky?
So I was actually just thinking about this earlier this week. We had Money 2020 in Vegas, and I was thinking back to like the first time Ivan and I went there in like 2019. You kind of have the crypto guys who are like, the prize trying to like sneak into the events on the invite list. This year, it was like every single person you'd run into, the only thing they wanted to talk about is like what is their crypto strategy. So like kind of had to stop wearing the MoonPay merch for how many people wanted to like stop through. But no, interesting story. Like I coming up on, 2026, I'll have worked in like fintech and crypto for almost a decade now. It's like right out of school, I moved out to London to go be an analyst at a venture fund called Seed Camp. And that's where I met the co-founders of MoonPay, Ivan and Victor, working on their first fintech company. So I was effectively staffed with them. Hey, do everything in your human power as like lowly analysts to like help this, pre-seed stage company go and see some success. So we got really close, kind of working out over there. I moved back to the States, kind of 2017, to go help a consulting firm go set up roots over there. And then Ivan let me know that they were actually selling their first fintech group. And through that, they were going to be spinning up a venture fund, venture studio, and wanted to see if there's any interest in helping them go run some like early stage deal flow pipeline. That was Hodl VC. So started that in
Oh, wow.
2018. And then as we started to look out into the world of like companies that we wanted to invest in, some like consumer crypto products, we started asking everyone the same question, like, how are you going to onboard new users? And very quickly realized that none of these companies had like an actual viable solution for that. Frankly, they all kind of assumed that all of their users had already been a part of like the Ethereum ICO.
Mm.
So we ended up partnering with Bitcoin.com in early 2019 to go help build a solution for them, and that's what turned into MoonPay.
What was, we've heard this story anecdotally, but we heard like fundraising when you guys first started was kind of a nightmare. Would love
Yeah,
to hear stories of like, I mean, now probably every investor wishes they were the first check into MoonPay. But like at that time, what was it like just pitching startups when you or pitching investors when you were,
sure.
yeah.
So back in call it like 2018, 2019, like on ramping itself, it wasn't really a category yet. Like it wasn't really looked at as kind of developer tooling. So if anything, people were looking at this new MoonPay thing as almost like an exchange, almost as like something that would go against like a Coinbase and a Kraken. So we did go out for some early stage fundraising. It was not successful to the tune that we wanted it to be, which I think was actually the catalyst for like how MoonPay got kind of like all of its growth from being like scrappy and finding the right partnerships and growth models for us is because that early stage investment round did not go how we planned. But funny enough, it was tied to like the valuation being at a certain size, and maybe there were interested parties if that valuation were to go lower. But to us, we're like, we don't really see the need to do that. you know what? That's fine. We won't do this investment round. Let's go stick back to what we know and carry on from that side. To the point where we didn't really do any kind of pre-seed or seed stage capital round, and it was that singular kind of Series A event that we had back in 2021.
Yeah, honestly, kind of curious to hear both of your guys' thoughts. Like, obviously, Ash, you experienced fundraising as a solo founder. Back when you were in school, like at that time, no track record. Halsey, I think you guys were probably a little bit more advanced. Like had already, like Ivan, I guess, had already exited the first company. Um, like, what would be some advice for anyone watching this on like the fundraising stuff? Like, how do you know? Like, this is such a cringe phrase, but like, how do you know your worth when you're like, when you've got like when you're kind of in that desperate phase?
I'd absolutely love to hear Halsey's thoughts on this. Like, I don't think I'm in a position to give anyone advice. I think it's all been mostly like a lot of luck, a lot of effort. I think one thing that they said during the A16Z accelerator that we did that stood out to me, Brian Armstrong actually came in and gave a talk like week 2, and he was like, when he did YC, him and a friend in YC had an agreement that something stupid. It was like if either of them quits the company or ends their company before it's been 2 years of trying, like the other one has to, or they have to buy the other one like a bottle of wine or something, or like the fanciest dinner ever. And like that, for whatever reason, really stuck in my head. It's like, okay, like I'm pivoting, I'm trying all this stuff out. Like you just can't give up. Like you have to give it time. Like some things do just take time. I don't know if I still fully believe that. I think there are certain things where like you should try to pivot quickly, but I think especially early on for me, it was like I'm just building. Like this is my life. I'm figuring it out for this period of time and like giving it a go. Not fundraising at all, but that just like early on.
So I really like that idea because like all of this takes insane amounts of grit, right? We actually talk about that quite a bit on the MoonPay side. Um, but I do also believe that like banging your head against a wall is not the best like strategy. So like for those that like can actually have like the self-awareness to make the pivot and go
Yep.
towards the change, yes. But I like that 2 year sequence, like one like pretty amicable bet between the two. Like no one's gonna be mad at like giving their friend a bottle of wine. But like small things to actually keep you going for it when you were kind of like fully against the headwinds. Weirdly small, but I bet weirdly helpful for whoever that other co-founder was. Um, but like, if you haven't been able to like figure out the idea that you can get either customers or partners somewhat on board with, right? Difference between someone like launching a brand new blockchain that may actually take like 2 years to develop, right? You should be able to get some kind of signal on the idea before that 2 year time is up, right? And I think it is totally okay for people to realize like, hey, markets are changing. What we thought we wanted to do 2 years ago, like, is very much not the right fit for this. And like could be a pivot, but like there is also a way to like kind of like hang up the cape, if you will, to like move on to something else. And I think that is also like very much a skill in and of itself. Um,
You
Jacob,
guys
back
must have
to
pivoted, right? Like,
so I like pivoted, maybe wrong word, right? Because if you think of MoonPay as like a very simple primitive, right? Like we are this digital ATM machine that sits outside of or inside of all these different applications. And so, like, our pivot may not have been actually on like a product side, but on like who actually needs this side, and like who are the partners that we actually should be like closer with, where we see growth, and like maybe what are some newer verticals that didn't actually matter, right? So I think that very well could have been like the pivots that we cared about. 'Cause MoonPay has a wide stream of clients, right? There are like 10,000 different developers or companies that uses some subset of like the MoonPay products. But in those early days, it was very much like on ramps, off ramps, and like geographic expansion. So, it could have been, let's say, do more of a focus on Europe here. Let's do more of a bent on like getting US activity, um, and probably like new chain expansion on that
Yeah.
side. And it took us to, a few years into the business to actually carve into, let's have some new product offerings that's like very specifically focused on a new vertical. And that was like with our NFT checkout product back in like 2021, 2022.
what is it like to start winning? Like, I mean, we're on the growth towards that, hopefully, or we will, or we are. Yeah, I don't know what the right like manifestation word is for that, but
No,
like,
I think that's right.
yeah,
I think that's right. So it's very good for people to actually get the signal that like what you're working on is working. Um, but I will say that like sometimes that like brash success can definitely like breed some like complacency, right? And sometimes people may think, ah, yes, we do have that product market fit track that is going super well. And it may just have been maybe, call it like a handful of partnerships, but wasn't really the signal that you were looking for. Um, so I say like when you do find that right path, very good to keep going towards the things that are getting everyone excited. But it's also the right time to double down and like make sure you're actually servicing the right customers and like giving them what they need outside of kind of like the exciting hype cycle. Because if you get too excited on what's happening, you may miss some of like the other pieces that are coming through. So for us, like we started very humble, which I think is very helpful in kind of the DNA of the org. We've got a few kind of core values for the company that we care about. One of my favorite ones is Kaizen. So it's a idea we stole from like Toyota manufacturing. But every day you have the ability to make something at least like 1% better. And if you're able to achieve that, you end up putting in like insane compounding growth, all theoretically, right? But it also gives us and everyone at the organization like the ability to be able to move something forward when it's not perfect because we know that like the next day we have the opportunity like to continue to make it better. um, so I think that very much rings true. So like we can get excited about like the growth and everyone that we're working with, but we have it kind of like ingrained in here that like we show up every day to continue to make it better. And everyone just kind of looks for what those opportunities might be. And in a great way, I mean, you probably heard this before, like feedback is a gift, but like
Yeah.
not everyone actually likes taking feedback. On this side, like every kind of enhancement, every kind of optimization is looked at as like a gift. So I think, keeping the excitement and like being able to give people the credit for winning and like building some amazing stuff to get us to this point, but you still have everyone excited about like these small tweaks to continue to make it better. And I think they kind of go hand in hand on that side.
I have a
Um,
really sorry, I was gonna say like a really quick question on some specifics because I think it'd be cool for people to hear. Like we're still very early. We've had a couple days that are just incredible. We've had like our launch announcement, of course, with you guys, like early August when we finally launched. Like amazing day. Like we're all sitting in front of our laptop all day. Twitter's going off, socials are going off. We're seeing the user number just go up in like vertical, which is so sick. Like, do you have any early memories? Of course, now you guys are killing it all the time of like, holy shit, like this thing's finally taking off. Let's go. Like right
so
after you hit
we
something or whatever. Yeah.
we used to have a gong in Slack that would go off for like every completed transaction.
Hell yeah.
And so when it was like super early days, right, that was something that like we were actually tracking, like make sure it went, well. And we got to the point where we had a handful of like non-custodial wallet clients, and they ended up kind of like launching through a sequence. We very quickly had to turn the gong off, right? Because you would get to a point where you'd like open up your laptop and then for the next like minute and a half, it would literally just play everything that was supposed to have like gone through over the past like hour that you like weren't on your computer. Um, so I think some early days with like Bitcoin.com, and also I'll give Zengo a shout out over here as well. But yeah, the that was quite fun. Also fun to realize that going out over a weekend. So, for
Yeah,
for
that's
the world, crypto very much doesn't sleep, right?
Yeah.
So MoonPay had to figure out very early on that like we also needed liquidity operations that operated like 24/7. Um, but yeah, the Gong is something I very, very clearly remember from like back when we had our first like New York City office, which is
Yeah.
like the size of the kitchen table that I'm at right now. Um, but yeah, fun times on that side. Turning it off was actually pretty fun.
that's so killer.
What's it like, I mean, when transitioning from where you guys were when you started to like where you are now, like just Halsey himself, like when we feel this a little bit, or I feel it a lot, where it's like when we first met you is like, kind of a big deal to meet you, right? Or just like get involved with MoonPay or get involved with any of these names that like, now we kind of know you guys a lot better and it's like more normal. You probably felt that same way when you first started. You're like, oh, this is a big, crypto company with a lot of distribution. But now that you've been in the game, like, however many years, it's probably normal for you to like meet these people. So how does your role evolve from like person who's just like fiending and thinking of every creative way to get like an introduction to someone who probably could get an introduction with most people or like two circles removed? And how do those two roles differ in terms of like stress or just like I'm sure it doesn't get easier actually. You just have more different problems.
Yeah, so what I will say is like, the longer you stay in the space doing good things, like your network expands. I've always had a philosophy of like giving first because we live in a very kind of connected, relationship driven and like as a service space. Like classic crypto, everyone is building off of the same like DeFi building blocks. So like you will need to be connected with everyone, right? Um, I think just looking back from like early stages to now, like in any deal, right? There's always a way to like ask the partner like, what are you looking for, and like what can I actually be helpful with? So someone who is like the smallest fish in the pond trying to get a conversation with someone larger, there's still always some way to work towards, hey, this is going to be a beneficial kind of collaboration for both of us. I think how like my perspective on that has changed is like the world like really is that broad. And it's not a bad thing when like almost like a competitive set of products come up, right? It's actually a really nice thing in our world when people start to build similar products but pick their differentiation, because then the world of consumers and the developers that want to build on top of them, like they actually have the ability to pick and choose like what is the actual right one for them, not just something that was kind of like biggest name in the space. um but I yeah it's I'd like to say like a big part of our brand is a company that is like always going to be helpful. So I do end up taking a ton of conversations that may not have anything to do with like adding on ramps or off ramps, right? But the longer you spend in the space, like the quicker you realize that everyone is interconnected, and like we do have this overarching goal of like trying to bring like Web3 to the masses, invite TradFi in, and like you have to be helpful, right? So do a lot of connections on this side. Um, but I'd like to think almost like the deals themselves, the nature of them haven't changed that much. It's just now like on my side of the table, we get to bring a little bit more, right? A lot of kind of interconnectedness, ecosystem driving, that side of the fence. But like same style that I would go after trying to set up a deal with like a protocol or like a large partner before is still kind of the same principles that we look at now. There are also like things that people starting out very much at the early stage can go and use. So there's a concept of the elephant gun, right? You are looking to bring a new product to market. What is the best way to figure out, is this the right idea, the right direction? You find the biggest guy in the room, take the elephant gun, and you see if it's going to work for them, right? Idea being, if it does work for them, they're large enough that it should work for like these other parties in like the same cohort. And we've been very good at doing that for all of our different kind of major product launches, as well as a lot of the like acquisition work that we've done, right? Trying to find a very easy, large, demonstrative win. And so like I like to tell teams, especially on the earlier side, whether it's like, consumer front or like B2B, is like you should always be looking at like where should the elephant gun be pointed, and then make sure you have a strategy to pick up anyone else that is smaller than that, but it didn't need to be the focus. And so like we may have like what we talk about on the deal side may be changing from like this year versus like the first year. But a lot of those same principles haven't changed.
Talking about like, working with smaller guys, like obviously MoonPay has this Shipyard program that, Axel has been part of. Would love to hear like what was the origination for that? And then Ash, I'd love to hear like what's it been like working, like being part of it.
Yeah. So I will say one of the great things that MoonPay did early on was be helpful to startups, right? Sometimes you can't actually predict who is going to be the major winner in like a specific category. And we realized if we could be helpful to those groups at an earlier stage, we've learned enough on bringing MoonPay to market that there's usually some good value transfer of knowledge that can happen there. So for Shipyard, for us, is how we help venture-backed companies and companies that have made it through a accelerator program or a grant program, right? MoonPay has a wonderful amount of distribution. Usually, when we end up meeting these companies during the accelerator programs, they get ready for demo day, but they may not have actually gotten ready for their actual kind of like public launch, global release, et cetera. So we'll take those companies in, get them geared up to be speaking with our comms, marketing, BD teams to actually help with that overall go-to-market plan. If there were any other kind of like service providers that the team was needing help with, right, outside of MoonPay products, we've got a wonderful network of both like service providers, tech solutions, and also venture funds for any other kind of assistance that they needed, like post those programs. But it's very much like how we treat these kind of venture-backed VIP groups coming into the MoonPay network and how we gear them up for that kind of first initial launch.
Yeah, I mean, Jacob, you can definitely speak to it too, but it's been incredible. I mean, I think it went from, I know it was when you guys were first starting to formalize the program, but everything that Halsey just said, we've been on the receiving end of tremendously. Like feedback on app, how to get through app store review process, like launch day, virality strategy. Like hell, you guys helped us redo our entire branding. Like this is stuff that I never would have expected from even an accelerator program where there is equity at play or something where like they're taking a portion of the company. So yeah, it's just incredible to see how I think Jacob sending a cold DM can result in all of that. I can't
Yeah.
speak highly enough. It's just been incredible.
So good point. Shipyard program, non-dilutive.
Yeah, yeah, big
It's a
point.
great thing when you can have a payments company be like very well incentivized to make sure that the clients actually turn into like revenue producing groups. But it's very much, trying to be a better extension to some of the other like because you guys went through CSX, right?
Yes.
And so if we can help kind of continue anything along from there, like definitely want to dig in on that side. But like we've learned a lot on even these smaller kind of like go-to-market motions that like not everyone understands kind of like the power of like good design and branding in crypto. And it's great for us. Like we've got our other life team
Yep.
in-house out of Toronto that can be like, very quick, very helpful on actually like directing that brand. So it's great when we get to actually combine a lot of the stuff working on the MoonPay side and very much direct it for that early stage groups, right? Because we work with companies of all shapes and sizes, right? So when you're working with a like massive Fortune 500, Fortune 100 group, like they do have a lot of their own resources, right? But for the smaller set of companies that are like just coming to the market for the first time, they really don't. And it's, quite simple for us to actually get groups moving on like the right track and engaging with the right flywheels. So like very, very excited from the progress with you guys. You've also given us some like very, very good feedback on like how it can be a little bit more helpful. So I'm excited to dig in on that side too. But yeah, so far so good. And looking forward to the next chapter at Axal.
What is just to kind of like wrap things up, what is your guys' favorite app in crypto that you've ever like interacted with outside of the company that you're building or like working for? Uh,
Okay, this is going to be a throwback. There was a NFT project that I just became a absolute fan of called Galaxy Fight Club, and they were one of the first like actually playable on mobile games. It was kind of similar to like Brawl Stars or some of those kind of like mobile ones. But you bought your NFT characters, there were challenges, and it worked. And like they actually hit the meta for like what gamers were looking for. Um, but not to any knock of the founders, they realized that there was a little bit more money to be made in some other crypto verticals, so they sunset the project. Um, but it was one of those kind of first realizations for me that you can actually have like a Web3 franchise that isn't just like, yes, we're a Web3 game, like legitimately fun. The mechanics made sense. The reason you had NFTs made sense. And I was like, wow, this is such a fantastically simple playbook if people can just do these pieces correctly. So I'll throw that one out there as a favorite one to go and use.
That's so cool. I'll go quick. It's an obvious one, but I do think for me it's been life changing. Moonshot, like I know they've been around for a
Yeah.
while and they've or now for like a decent amount of time. But I think last November and December when they really started like hitting it, like that was crazy. I would go home from work and my roommate would be like telling me about how he's buying meme coins. And this guy works at he's some software engineer at like a climate startup, or one guy's like a banker here in New York. It's like they have no business like necessarily in normal like how crypto was at the time, going and trading all this stuff. And that was just surreal to me. Like I'd never been part of something where it really felt like this was mainstream. I was opening the app store and seeing them on the top charts. I was like, what is going on? So I think app did a lot of amazing things. Clean UI, push notification game was on point. It was killer. It would like, oh, like you could have made this much, or like traders today have made this much money, or like current market cap of newly released token. It's just like lots of amazing lessons that we're trying to internalize as well. Of course, very
Yeah.
different vertical, but
Yeah.
cool.
Moonshot team, incredibly good at understanding like what their users actually wanted to do on like every screen that they had. Team has actually been great on giving MoonPay some feedback on like, hey, we think this is how you can make some things better. Um, one other app shout out, but they haven't released their app yet, so I think it's kind of like a half answer. But I've been having and you guys met these guys too, having a bunch of fun with Rhythm.
Yeah.
um, just sits on top of all these different launch pads, go in and take a little look see on like what are the actual like rippers that are about to happen. And really, really interesting to see kind of what happens with a bunch of these like early tokens trying to copy on other tokens, see like battles across going through on whether it's launching through like Bonk, Meteor, or Pump. Um, but the data that goes behind it has been really interesting to go and see, and like tracking like the crypto Twitter timeline to like these token launches and like actually getting in earlier on that side has been, personally fun for me. Um, but yeah, it's a lot of great names kind of getting dropped on this side. I do think it is also important to note that like just because you've got some groups that may be like category defining on the application side, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be building something like that yourselves. I think there's a lot that can be taken from like the Moonshot guys, right?
Yeah.
A lot of design aesthetics, a lot of like functionality inside there. They're all concepts that like developers should be working on and looking at themselves.
Yeah, no, and all three of those companies worked pretty closely with you guys, right? Like, I think they're go to market. But yeah, on that note, FOMO is my favorite app right now. Like, I think it's like Moonshot, but on steroids. Like, this is like the coolest app I've played around with in crypto in a while. Like, I think it just kills it on social behavior, which is like all crypto is to me. It's like, can you understand social behavior at least at this moment? And the leaderboard, I think, like to your point on like just learning things, there's so many things I think like Axel can incorporate a leaderboard. And then like I was talking to someone like Ash posted this photo of like, our company treasuries in Axel. And like I was talking to a girl who's put in a good chunk of her, of her net worth into Axel. And she's like, that inspired me to put in more. And I'm like, yeah, like this is like the little things that push people. So anyone who like can kill on consumer behavior, like what do people do and understand that and create a product around is just impressive. But
I think being able to find um, something quirky, right? Like, yes, people should be putting their money into Axel because it's a great product and they're going to get wonderful yield. Finding that quirky piece of like, oh my God, I saw so and so on the leaderboard and they're like above me. Well, like, screw
yeah.
that guy. Like, let me, I would like to be at the top of this list. Really interesting to find those little like, consumer behavior dynamic pieces. Like what's to stop you from having like a annual Axel ski trip and like the top 20 yield per people on that side, they're the group that gets invited. um Small things like that
Yeah.
could be the reason that someone actually goes and moves X amount of crypto onto like the platform. But it does take a little bit of time to actually get into that level of like being able to play with your consumers almost.
Yeah.
So it's a great spot for you guys to be in because like you actually get to look at those different tweaks and like where to play into it.
No, we've been in the trenches. I think a month ago we were giving away watches, like Grand Psychos, and then after that we thought about like giving out a PlayStation. I think it's like when do you use the right lever, but like oh my God, it is fun. This is just so fun.
Yeah, no,
The
now you go.
So one thing from regular tech world, the runway team, they actually came out with a hot sauce where they wrapped it in a $100 bill, worked with like this like artisanal brand, and they just sent it to like their clients and their investors. Why? Like because they have well enough of their own runway and like they wanted to do something on the engagement side and it like very much got people talking. And there were people that are like, I can't believe you did this. Like, yeah, maybe we actually start working with runway again. But like, small things like that I think are so fun. But
Yep.
like very specific to the group knowing their customers. Um, and you definitely have to have the balance sheet to back it up.
What has have you guys done anything really cool in that way?
So we've done like a number of collaborations with like designers, artists, and like a handful of NFT brands. So like I'd say recently, we did a bunch of stuff with like Rect drinks. So like now there's
Yeah.
like an actual like MoonPay flavor that's out there, and I know we sent a good amount of those around to like consumers and clients we're working with. Um, I really do like those kind of like NFT collaborations. I think we made a Doodles figurine at some point too. Um, but it's fun to have those. And then you go to so many crypto conferences and everyone has like random merch or stuff they want to give away. So we realized like we wanted that to be like a little bit more special. So like we've been doing like collaborations with likes of like Amber Victoria and
Yeah.
like a bunch of other on that side. Just that would be a little bit more special and notable than just like a t-shirt with a brand.
Oh, just to like wrap up here, final question. What makes you excited about crypto today?
Yes. So I know we've seen some market FUD going through. I could care less about any of that. I think it is like hands down the best time to be trying to bring some kind of crypto project to market, right? We've got regulatory clarity, we've got global expansion clarity. There are so many different DeFi building blocks and like software service providers for you to go pick and choose to bring your project to market that like majority of this just did not exist in years past, right? This is going to sound a little silly, but I think vibe coding is actually something that is like incredibly helpful for this side of the market. I'm not telling everyone on the call to like go to like Cursor or Lovable right now and like go launch their own DeFi product, but like that is how someone who is not a software engineer, not super technical in the Web3 space, can actually go pick the handful of service providers that they may have wanted to use and actually get some kind of working prototype up off the ground. It needs to be secure, right? But like we didn't have this before, right? I'm not a software engineer myself by trade. I know enough to be like technologically dangerous. But I've had so much fun actually testing out our service providers, our clients, their tools, and myself just building projects over the weekend that like probably if wanted to shoot that off and see if that could go do like a seed raise, like that would probably go forward, right? Am I going to do that? No, not on this call. But you have a very good ability to start now. And I want to see people still excited to like bring those ideas to market and like put it out in the arena and like start getting feedback on. Um, and like I think you guys have also leaned into that pretty heavily, not on the vibe coding side, but like, can we actually launch stuff and get some kind of intent from people and like see if there's any interest here? But there is a lot to be like that can be done to like accelerate people on this whole like 0 to 1 go to market and like surprising amount of it we can do in like a singular month.
That's so well said. We talk about it a lot. I mean, I know you met Ari on our team too. Like he's has no technical background at all. He's very much been like the Swiss Army knife of all things non-technical and most of his past roles. I mean, he was an army captain for God's sake.
Yeah,
And like this guy is managing our docs page. Like he has Cursor downloaded. He's like, it's such an incredible feeling to run a company where like everybody is capable of doing everything if they really need to. Of course, that's not the most efficient allocation of resources, but could not agree more. And even what you built out, we're excited to test it out too. I know you've given us a lot of advice just anecdotally about the App Store review process, which is historically been a nightmare for crypto companies. And like Dev on our team is like starting to, I think, play around with the app that you built out there to see if we could get better feedback on some of the later releases we're going to do. All this stuff.
yeah.
It's so exciting.
It's like yeah, after doing this for coming up on 7 years, you realize there are quite a few things in that overall go to market process that people just really don't talk about all that often.
Yeah.
And we found ourselves in a spot where we can be helpful there. So TLDR there, like MoonPay now has a little site called Preflight, where you can actually submit your application and see like what potentially Apple might say to come back at you and get angry for like having XYZ features. Um, and just like some other market insight to be like, well, this is actually what they're looking for. Here's how you talk about it. But like comes up a surprising amount of times and like can delay go to markets by, we've seen a number of months at the worst point. But yeah, this is stuff we look for to do on a daily basis, right? Are there other pieces of this go-to-market process that like our clients need some kind of assistance with? Like we see the pain, like we're going to find something to be helpful for.
Yeah. I'll just give a quick shameless plug, Jacob, to your question of like what's most exciting. Stablecoins are just crazy right now, and I think like yield on stables, at some point, yield on every tokenized asset is just like even like a month or two ago when you and I are just talking or the team is talking, like this is clearly even when we first met the MoonPay guys, it's clearly the future, but you didn't see a lot of the signs, and I think now you're starting to see the signs. Like, of course, all the M&A like flurry that you're seeing, a lot of Web2 companies, giants, like not small companies by any means, like true elephants that are just going and excited about crypto. Even hearing Halsey say that like he's at Money 2020 and everybody's being asked what is your crypto strategy, that is just so insane to me. So I'm very bullish. Like I don't stare at charts that often for like a lot of these volatile assets. Like I'm just there's enough other things to deal with. Stablecoins are just hitting their stride. Like now is the most exciting time to ever be. You're building the new blocks of finance. Like we've talked about, like the assets themselves are there. USDC, USDT, whatever else there might be, and there'll be more. Like the rails are now there. A lot of what MoonPay is doing on the ramping side, like being able to get into this economy is now there. What is next? And I think it is yield. I think it's like, especially depending on what happens to rates in the traditional markets, like there will be demand for more free, transparent, verifiable yield for every human on this planet. Like your dollar,
Yep.
a phrase that we love is like every dollar on this planet should be like put to work. I think when we got dinner, Halsey, what we it was like no idle capital, kill idle capital, something like that. That's
Yeah.
resonated a ton too.
Some with mercenary capital. Um, no, I'll remember it later, but that's the thing that needs to go on the
Okay.
t-shirt.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like, and it's great that you can be working on the yield side in the United States and not be worried that you may be going to jail at the end of
Yeah.
the year,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And great for everyone else listening to the call who wants to access that yield because like you guys do have that compliance solution that like people can hopefully shortly plug in on their own stack. But it took some time, right? So I think that you definitely have some founders with maybe a little whiplash that like it is okay to be optimistic right now. But I also think anyone who is a little kind of jaded or like tired with the space, like you're gonna have this whole new cohort of people coming in now who are just as excited and maybe seeing that whole stablecoin wave for like the first time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the floor of Money 2020 was like a great testament to like how the world of regular finance and payments is actually thinking about crypto now.
One at a time.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, final question. What are you guys going as for Halloween? Today's,
Yes. Okay. So
30.
this has been a heated debate. So I've been trying to find a costume for myself, my girlfriend, and my Cocker Spaniel Mogul. So I think we have decided now on two pieces. We're either crypto crash survivors, or we're going as Etsy witches and the Etsy witches brand manager. And then my dog is going to be like one of those satchels of like patchouli and like witch hexes that they sell on the side.
It's so insane. What am I doing? I procrastinate. So like me and all my roommates are doing like a group thing. They went to Home Depot like an hour ago. They bought a bunch of like
Sure.
what do you call it? Like those vests, like the neon construction worker
Yeah,
vests.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And they got a bunch of like fake jewelry. And the pitch is like you're the Louvre heist from like a few months ago or what a few weeks ago. That's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
gang. We're going and yeah, that's the costume.
Fair enough. All right, Jacob rolls out.
Yeah, I'm wearing my Draper hat with a vest, which I wear normally, but I'm not putting in any more effort than that. There was a big crypto party in New York City yesterday where you had to wear a costume to go in, and I was like this is too much, Like the guys are not like one. It was VIP entrance for women only, and then guys had to wait in line in costumes, and I'm like, this industry is built by guys who are probably not doing anything for Halloween, so. Yeah. That's my TLDR.
So everyone showed up as a, quote unquote crypto bro then. Great costume.
It's incredible.
Yeah, they showed up in like in their day-to-days. But hey, Halsey, thank you for your time and for your mentorship. Everyone who's watching this should beat on the doors of MoonPay to get into the Shipyard program. I honestly, I think we can all say we've been involved with a couple accelerators. This is definitely the one we like the most. And I don't even know if you call it an accelerator, but we're very lucky to be part of it. And thanks again for your time.
Yeah. I think we're going with founder program. But yeah, guys, so glad to have you in it. We're very excited about the future of Axel and where MoonPay can help. And thanks for having me on the call. Excited to listen back.
Sweet.
Have a good weekend, guys. Enjoy Halloween.